You're watching the Power Hour, and today we'll be speaking on the topic of sexuality. We'll be diving deep into the complex and often misunderstood aspect of human life. Joining us today is Coach Alana. Joining us today is Coach Alana. Alana, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's so good to be back.
Yeah, now we're going to be talking about sexuality. First of all, let's dive right into it. What is sexuality? There's so many different uh, parts to sexuality, right? So many different types of sexuality, I should say. Give us a couple, give us a few.
So let's just get back a little bit. Sexuality
Okay.
is actually not about different kinds and whatnot. Sexuality is all about who you're attracted to and how you express this attraction, period. The sexuality, people misinterpret sexuality because there's so much media going on and rumor about it and gossip and misunderstanding of what sexuality is. It's a natural and personal thing that comes with you. It's part of who you are. It's not something that you can somebody will force you to be or not to be. It's a natural part of you.
So when you say heterosexual, homosexual, when you say those, what is that?
So, sexuality, you have to remember that it's not a binary concept, it's a
Mhm.
spectrum, okay?
Okay.
As we develop as humans, okay? So, for example, I'm sure if I'll ask you, what you preferred back in your 20s or teens, you probably say, I don't like the same things, or I've developed a palate for some things and I like them now,
Right.
correct?
Right.
So when it comes to your sexuality, it's really your attraction, period. You are attracted to certain things now. If you develop, hopefully, you're developing as a person, okay? You
Hmm.
develop your personality, you develop as well different sexuality. Things that you're attracted to right now, you might not be attracted to them 10 years from now.
That's true.
But bottom line to remember that sexuality is something. Let's see if I can put it in a fun way. Sexuality is like a superpower. Imagine that you have it, and actually, it's not imaginable. Everybody has it, okay? When you discover that sexuality, it's like you discover that superpower that you have in you. So, when you are true and authentic to yourself, this is where that positivity and confidence come from. It's all about that. When you're in tune with your sexuality, your sexual energy is just blooming throughout your body and throughout your life in other aspects. Because when you're confident and you're authentic to yourself, you actually know what you want. And I'm not talking about just sexually, I'm talking
Right.
about you know what you want in life. If you were authentic enough to tell yourself, okay, I'm either heterosexual or homosexual, or I'm actually everything in between. I like it all. I like
Right.
people and I like to explore new things. Good for you. But if you're that honest with yourself, guess what? You won't be scared to approach other challenges in your life.
Right.
Other issues you'll approach with a smile and that confidence that you're like, I can do this. I know I can. And that attraction, it's sort of like that invisible light that everybody sees. I always like to give an example of, let's take two ladies, okay? One could be dressed in a very sexy attire, let's say a little black dress or a red dress with a deep cleavage and a red lipstick like I have today and looking all sex appeal. And then you would ask a male, do you find her attractive? And he'll say, well, she looks good, but I don't have that sex appeal towards her. There is no sexual energy.
Right.
Sometimes what people don't understand, if that sexual energy is dead and not discovered or developed for whatever reasons you might have, you will not radiate it. Confidence is visible and sexuality is visible through your through that invisible light. If you let it free, everybody will know it. And then you
Mm.
will see, for example, another lady who's wearing jeans and a white t-shirt and a messy ponytail, no makeup, but she's glowing. And then a male looks at her and say, oh my goodness, she's a walking sex.
Yeah.
And you can't explain. So sex appeal and sexuality are different things. It's not about how you present yourself. It's actually about what you're attracted to and how you express that attraction.
Right. Right. Now, I want to ask this: how has our understanding of sexuality changed over time?
I want to believe, and now I'm going to stay very positive since our last show was about positivity,
Right.
that humanity is developing and being more kind and acceptable towards other sexuality, because sexuality ultimately is also human rights if you think of it. Okay,
Right.
it's not something you can dictate or tell someone it's good or bad or wrong or right. Believe it or not, there is no book on wrong or right as far as sexuality goes. So, as we develop as humanity, I want to believe that we also become more acceptable of it. We accept people's choices, their freedom to express their sexuality the way they want to. I
Right.
mean, I think, look at 20 years back. I remember being in New York when New York legalized gay marriage. And it was huge. I was actually with my friends at the show, and I remember for some people it was a major breakthrough. And if back in the days, let's take 1980s, people would say this will never ever happen.
Right.
However, if we're looking back in Roman times, homosexual relationships were always around. This is not something new that people say, oh, because it's popular right now and it's cool. Especially I have a teenager, I hear all those things. It's cool to be a lesbian right now,
Yeah.
or it's cool to be into, well, polysexual or bisexual. And I'm
Right.
like, I don't think you guys actually even understand what that is. It's cool to be free and express your natural attractions. That's what's cool.
Yeah. And like you said, it's been around for centuries.
Forever. The
You know.
problem is that humans dictate, they like to dictate what's right and wrong. Well, there
Yeah.
are a lot of things that are right and wrong right now in the world. We won't get into that, but they're not doing anything about it. Then why do they bother getting involved in restricting someone's sexuality?
Right. Right. It's back in the days, when we were coming up, you never saw it on TV. It was almost hidden. So,
It was
it
forbidden.
was taboo, right? Back then. But it was there. Now, media allows it to be right in front of us, right on TV. So you see it everywhere. So the old school folks are like, whoa, wait a minute. You know what I mean? So people get stuck in the way they were back then. And, what are some common factors that influence an individual's sexuality?
I think, first of all, we have to talk about culture. I think
Culture,
this is the main and the most important thing,
right?
because things that are celebrated in one culture could be, like you said, taboo in
Hmm.
another culture. That's just it. And you have to respect your culture. I would not advise anybody to disrespect it. However, if you're living in a culture that restricts your natural well-being, oh, it restricts who you really are, maybe you should reevaluate where you're living and your surrounding. I'm not saying change your culture. However, maybe transform yourself to community that is more acceptable of who you are, because
Right.
living in the shade or living in constant suppression and not being able to express your attraction, um, it's I'd imagine this would be actually very harming for one's well-being, as a matter of
Yeah.
fact.
Yeah. Yeah.
So cultural factor is huge.
Right. Right. Now,
Thumbs up.
thumbs up, right? Now, I want to talk about parents for a minute. How can parents start a conversation about sexuality with their children? How should they approach that?
Another thing is you asked me is education.
Hmm.
Okay, so we're going back, you and I probably going back before times where parents were not allowed to talk about sex at all to their children. Well,
Hmm.
you're lucky if your dad told you how to put on a condom. Most of the time you found out this from your friend, and it's not always a lucky try.
Right.
Um, I think parents need to realize that the earlier you talk about sex and sexuality with your children, the better it's off. For example, little kids as young as 1, 2, when you help them to take their shower, this is the time to teach them this is a penis, this is a vagina. No
Right.
cookies, no flowers, no your thing. Don't give it names. First and foremost, parents and children, it's parents' job to teach their children what are parts of their body are called, first of all, and not shaming them if they're seeing some early sexual behavior from their kids. Because when they're exploring their body, it actually comes, I mean, ages 4, 5, and 6,
Huh.
their first attempts to explore their body. Dr. Freud, famous psychologist who's huge in history, he has his divisions of those stages where you explore your mouth and your hands and texture of your surrounding world. So, talking to your children from a very early age opens a lot of doors, because then when they become a teenagers, and now we're talking about the actual sex,
Hmm.
or the actual intercourse, you are able to explain to your child how the process works.
Right.
You're able to discuss that it's natural to tell your partner what you like and what you don't like. It's okay to express your sexuality towards whatever is that, or whoever is that you are attracted to.
Right.
If you were a boy and you're attracted to another boy, it's okay. Is that a true you? I will never shame you. And be open about talking about this. Don't discriminate. Don't allow yourself to be exposed to stigma, because these are all the blocks that are building on them. And then before you know it, they're teenagers with a lot of insecurities. Is that
Huh.
okay to express that? Oh, I would never say that to my boyfriend. Well, that's failed again. And then we'll go through years and years and decades of not being able to discuss things with our partners until you get into your late 30s and 40s. You're like, well, if I won't start now, I will never start. And then you're sort of in this desert of you want to try everything and anything, and you're lost.
Right.
So it's important. Education is very important. Parents
Now,
need to educate themselves
mhm.
and their kids.
Right. Now, what age do you think a child knows their sexuality? You hear people say, I was born this way. I felt this way since early on. What age do you think they know, okay, this is what I'm going to identify as?
Honestly speaking, their first attractions, I would say, start with ages 6, 7, and 8, elementary school, because that first sort of, oh, I'm a boyfriend, girlfriend. You remember kindergarten, your first boyfriend or
That first
girlfriend?
crush, right? When you know your first
First
crush.
crush. That first feeling of butterflies, and you're like, am I nauseous? And your child would say, I have a stomach ache before I go to school, because you're
Hmm.
gonna see that girl, that boy, and you were like trembling. But that's not stomach ache. You're looking
Right.
forward to seeing that person. Okay, so it starts very early in age. However, going back to parental education, if parents are not open to, let's say a boy comes in and he's super friendly with his other friend, they're best friends, they give each other hugs, and I don't know, maybe they kiss each other on the cheek. If at that point parents, god forbid, will shame them that, oh, you're too close with your friend, or two girls when they're hugging and kissing, that's very, actually girls do that even more at young age.
Yeah.
Boys are a little bit, um, they're taking their time. Girls are much faster to embrace in this whole girlfriend kissing and hugging thing. If you shame your child, this is the blocks you're already creating for them to, okay, my parents didn't react well to this. Maybe I should, what do other kids do? So now they start imitating rather than listening to what they're naturally attracted to.
Right. Right.
So elementary school is when first attraction is real.
Yeah.
Then comes teenage age, where they're influenced by social media. And that's a tricky time because they are exploring their sexuality, different kinds of it. And it's a very good time to do so in a safe way. So hopefully by that time, they know about protective sex, sexual transmitted diseases, and other dangerous things that could come with your exploratory work.
Right.
But if they're influenced by media and it's cool, let's say, to be gay, but you're not really attracted, you're doing this because you want to be cool, that's when things get a little bit messy.
Yeah,
But
it
natural
does.
attraction, you're absolutely right. When people tell you this, and now it's a scientific proof. You and I talked about back in the days where people were judged.
Mhm.
And at one point, actually, it was considered as a psychological abnormality,
Yeah.
which, thank goodness, hallelujah, 21st century, we now know there is no study that proves that your um, sexuality is a form of abnormality. It's
Right.
not. It's
Right.
a natural attraction, just as I said in the beginning of the show of who you are. It does change, it evolves as you grow as a person.
Yeah.
So you maybe back in the days when you were 5, 6, you always heard in your family or at home that, oh my goodness, homosexuality is just wrong, and it stayed in the back of your mind. So you thought you were attracted to girls until you set yourself free. Maybe you went to therapy. Maybe you actually saw other friends who are like, the hell with this. Life is too short to live in the shadow and to not enjoy what I like. And you thought to yourself, oh my goodness, that's what I've been doing. And the flashback of like, the reason why I wasn't expressing my attraction is because, yeah, my parents are against it or
Yeah.
whoever. So it's important to stay true to yourself. It's important to educate yourself, your children, and it's important to, as you bring your children up, give them freedom of choice. Like you
Right.
give them freedom of choosing their career, hopefully.
Right. Now, what would you say to a person who may be listening right now and maybe struggling with their sexuality, uh, trying to keep things, in the dark or whatever? What would you say to that person?
First of all, I would say start loving yourself. Talk to yourself. Give yourself a hug. Get into this huggable chair and tell yourself, I know what I want. I just don't know how to go out there and express it just yet. But give yourself a big tap on the shoulder for finding out of who you're attracted to and how you want to express this. And if you're struggling to bring this out in the world and come out from the shadows, I would just say try to surround yourself with people who either went through it or seek for help. Go for a coaching session, someone who will give you non judgmental support. There's so many that offer that right now. Don't lock yourself in that prison because, believe it or not, people will always be unhappy with you. Even if you are a perfect son or a perfect daughter, parents will find something to tell you, yeah, that's not really what I hope you're going to do. It's just who we are as humans. We do put, expectations onto our kids or into people around us. Guess what? People will always be people,
Yeah.
but you will always be you, and you're only given one life. After all, again, there's no scientific proof. I love science that there is afterlife, okay? Or you will ever come back to this planet and have another chance to relive this life. So, whatever you have left, don't stay in the shadow locked. Express your sexuality, set yourself free, hit that refresh button, and you will see that the confidence and the new energy that will shine within you will attract the right people and make you happy ultimately.
There you go. Coach Alana, I do thank you for joining me on the show once again. We have to do it again. You're watching the Power Hour right here on Soul TV. All right, you're watching the Power Hour. I'm your host, DJ Larry. Power Hour. And
Myself.
Mystifying Elliot.
And then you start to.
I found out about my husband's infidelity.
Ryan, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on there, DJ Larry.
Are aliens real?
Hey, I can't say they're not.
Life is bigger than going to work, paying bills, and repeating the cycle. I mean, it's more to it. More to it.
Catch an all-new Power Hour with DJ Larry Jones at 8:30 p.m. EST on Soul TV.
Yo, what's up? This is DJ Larry Jones. Make sure you watch the Power Hour right here on Soul TV.
You're watching Soul TV.